Hi, I'm Pip and welcome to this presentation of Local Friend. What is Local Friend? Local Friend is an app-based service targeted to millennial tourists, like these ladies. A few months ago we went out to the streets of Hong Kong and we spoke to tourists to find out what makes them anxious. What are they looking for to help them with their travel? We targeted millennials specifically to find out what is unique to them. And what we found is that there is three key areas that they're concerned about. One is sightseeing. Where do I go? What do I see? How do I get there? The other is physical security. Is it safe for me to travel to this location? Is it safe for me to travel on public transport late at night? And the third is medical emergencies. So we asked them, what do you do in these situations? And then we've got the quizzical looks. Turns out, not much. So they are very comfortable with the sightseeing, some solutions and services such as TripAdvisor, Lonely Planet, and friend networks to be able to find out what to do. But when we dug deeper into physical security and medical emergencies, we got a lot of head scratching. I'm not sure, they'd say, call my mum, ask my friend. Interestingly, a lot of them as a group of friends said, I'll ask my friend. And all of them were as clueless as each other. So we recognize that there is a gap here, that there is a need for some type of service to address the anxiety that is associated with both physical security and medical emergencies for those in Asia. Enter Local Friend. So what is Local Friend? Local Friend is an app-based service that contains information that people need when they need to know it. For example, where is the closest hospital? How do I access a doctor? What is unique about our service is that there is also a 24/7 hotline for people that they can either chat or speak to or request someone personally to come and help them. This makes a big difference when people are unsure about how a process would go. I remember speaking to someone who broke their leg skiing in Japan. They said they couldn't read the forms, they didn't know what to fill out. And they didn't know how to talk to the nurses. Only the doctor also spoke English. So a lot of these things add to a lot of the anxiety, and somebody local can really help solve that problem. So what does Local Friend look like? Let me show you a prototype we developed on the Pop by Marvel app. So this is the front page that we mocked up. We have at the bottom the link to the local 911 or emergency number, as well as 24/7 emergency access to Local Friend. So they can either chat or call through WeChat or WhatsApp to speak to one of our operators. We also had, and people in location. Originally, we had these 4 services that we were testing in the market. We found out that only 2 really grabbed people's attention. The second one was accident. And this is really around things to avoid. So what do I need to know in location? And dangerous areas. Where shouldn't I go? And then the most important was the health. Where is the nearest hospital? Do those hospitals specialize in women's hospitals versus children's hospitals? Ambulance. How do I access an ambulance? Vaccines and doctors were not as important, but the top 2 were very important. For us, it was actually this and the friend network that makes the biggest difference for Local Friend for people when they're traveling. So we took this prototype out into the market and we tested it. And got a lot of feedback. A lot of people were saying this is like insurance, but they're not sure how, they're not certain about what they would need to do if something happened, and that this service would really fill that gap for them. There was one person I spoke to in particular who I remember I met at an entrepreneurs event. And he stopped me before, just as I was starting to show him the prototype, to share his story. He is a young Singaporean and he was traveling to Indonesia to play basketball. During the match, he was elbowed in the eye and his eye was bleeding. He's actually had some permanent damage, which is disappointing. You can't see on his LinkedIn photo, but it looked like it must have been a really nasty injury. His coach took him to the closest hospital with some of his friends, and he waited for over 3 hours to see a doctor. He was unsure of what was going on. Do I need to speak to someone else? Do I need to go to a different hospital? What is the process? So while he was covered by insurance, all these immediate questions of being able to access the help there that he needed wasn't there. And this is where Local Friend would have come in. The coach was lost. In spite of speaking some Bahasa, they were unable to communicate with the local medical professionals. Local Friend would have changed this. He would have been able to find someone nearby who could come and help translate, share the importance and the fear that he was having with the healthcare professionals, and perhaps direct him to a different hospital. It might have been one around the corner that actually has a very low waiting time for emergency, or a private hospital that his insurance would have covered. None of this in the heat of the moment was addressed, and this is where the gap that Local Friend will address. So Local Friend really leverages digital natives, or the millennials, comfort with app-based support, and at the same time is using that to address the human side of insurance. So insurance deals with the financial, and Local Friend deals with the human side of emergencies. We estimate this market to be approximately $1 billion. How do we get to that number? We looked at two key metrics. First one, tourism, and the second one, insurance. Insurance premiums are set to reach $3 billion by 2019. Similarly, there's a growth in tourist numbers. 308 million inbound tourists to Asia in the 2017 is projected to grow to 330 million in 2020. If we were to take only 10% of that travelers number and have them pay $30, say $3 to download and a premium for using the service when they need to call, then we would easily reach $1 billion, and that is in only one market. That would only be in the Hong Kong market. So revenue in the short term, obviously direct sales. In the medium term, we'll be looking at bundling this service and being able to have it as an add-on, a premium add-on for some insurers. And over time, this information, the data that we'll be able to collect, will be able to monetize. We looked at what opportunities, what services are being provided at this point in time. International SOS, which I'm sure you're familiar with, very high cost, and some other services have a very low touch. So how are we going to promote this? The first thing is around bundling it, promoting it through services like Airbnb, in the same way that insurance does with airfares. Second of all, we're going to explore opportunities for partnering with tourism boards and the like, as well as promoting through YouTube and Instagram and other apps that millennials tend to use. We recognize that it is not going to be the first to market that wins this game, nor is it going to be the biggest. It is going to be the most trusted. Trust is imperative here. And this is why one of the risks that we need to address is around the supplier side. How do we build the trust of our supplier and create that stickiness with tourists? It also links to our growth across Asia. Hong Kong first, and then we'll expand to Singapore, Thailand, Indonesia, Malaysia, and so forth. This is the team. We have Joan, Michael, Daryl, Ed, and myself. Together we cover experience in the financial services and insurance market, operations and sales expertise, as well as expertise in the technology industry. So our next steps, we need to develop a better understanding of the supply side. How do we research and access our friends? The registered nurses, enrolled nurses, first aiders, for example. Secondly, we need to further test, finalise and test both from UI and UX perspectives, so user interface and user experience, and get to a final price point for users. And lastly, explore better partnering alternatives, opportunities with different companies in more depth. And that's it. Thank you very much for your time today. Bye for now.